Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host Gamer K, and it is the final video for the month of February of 2024. And one's going to be a little bit of a weird one. I mean, it is going to be another ranking video, but it's going to be on a subject I don't have many years experience on, as it is being enveloped by a series that has become a cult classic many years ago when it was released, and then during COVID, the sequel was released. I am talking about Psychonauts 1 and 2. You know, the funny thing is, I didn't really know about Psychonauts until I started following a bunch of YouTubers, people who do top lists, ranking videos, and one of my favorite ones, a pretty good one actually, who does things his own way, and kind of got me into doing got me into playing Psychonauts. Defoffalizer. Link for his channel right there, because anytime I mention some of the YouTubers I follow, I always put their link. Okay, except for Emgo during my Funkos, but if you want to find him, very simple to do. He did a lot of lists talking about the Psychonauts level, about the levels, the bosses, characters, what have you. So I've been inspired by one of his videos a couple of years ago to do all 19 levels in the Psychonauts game, ranking them from my least favorite or worst to the absolute best. Now, for those of you who've never played any of the Psychonauts games or at all, kind of a spoiler warning for some of the levels, because some of them are final levels and kind of delve into a lot. And I'm going to be going into these levels going purely, again, this is a ranking video, so these are just based on my overall opinion. Because if I just do a list where everyone pretty much put the same levels at the same spots on the list, it gets kind of boring. So I'll be going in depth about the character whose mind it belongs to, the layout, the atmosphere of the level. Enemies are not a factor. Actually, some are technically. I mean, characters within the world. Boss fights are somewhat of a plus, somewhat of a minus, just in case. The overall aesthetic of the level and the kind of psychology that goes into this level. And I will be putting both Hollis' minds from the second game together and all of Ford's minds in the second game together as well as one collective mind. And also one level where we get kicked out a good number of times until we're basically ready to continue forward throughout the game. So, with that being said, these are my ranking. This is Gamer K ranking every single, all 19 levels in the Psychonauts series. Minus the VR game, because I'm never playing that, and watching it was kind of a nuisance. I didn't really understand it that much, but overall, let's begin.
What could the bottom spot be? Well, it's interesting you ask, because yeah, okay, it's the meat circus.
I don't know what... I get what Defoffalizer was saying. The Meat Circus may be one of the worst levels in gaming history. Also, maybe one of the worst final boss levels ever created. But, despite what he said, the Meat Circus isn't at the bottom of my list. That honor goes to a level that... So in the Psychonauts first game, there are 3 levels that kind of showcase as tutorial missions a little bit. That show us the platforming, the combat, and... Actually, the other one doesn't really show us that much difference, except having to use a special, one of our abilities. And out of the 3, the worst one is Mila's Dance Party. Mila Vodello is one of the Psychonaut agents that has this 60s Felicity Shagwell kind of look to her. And yeah, her entire level is one giant 60s themed disco party, which, oh my god. It looks like if Austin Powers home decorated a whole level. If that's what kind of joke we're opening with this list, I'm not happy about it. Mila's entire theme is to show the kids how to use the levitation ability, which also acts as a giant ball we roll on in order to get momentum. And throughout the level, we're either using the levitate ball, doing platform sections, or using the levitate ball to roll around the brink like we're in a giant 60s arcade pinball game. But what makes this the worst one of all? Well, this might be the only time in this list I rage out, considering who... Okay, so in the game, we also have the figments to collect, which in every level, they're kind of doodly, light-colored doodles that kind of represent certain characters throughout the person's mind in the variety of areas. And the problem that I'm bringing this up with is because who in their right fucking mind decide to make a kind of techno 60s... Okay, anyone who knows the 60s aesthetic knows that it's kind of bright colored and vibrant, and the figments are multicolored and vibrant, so they blend in. Also, there's a race track that we have to go through where there are figments everywhere. So who in their right fucking mind in the development team decided to put so many figments onto this multicolored race course where I had to do it at least... I kept track of how many times I had to go from the start of the track to the back, because you had to backtrack to find a whole bunch of them. I counted, and it was 17 times. I had to do this course so many times that my eyes started hurting because the colors were starting to blend and it hurt. I had to take a 2-day break from doing that because I wasn't doing it for the achievement. Okay, I was doing it for the achievement and to complete it because I did it in the second game. But overall, Mila's level is just a bore. I mean, at least in the other two brains, we get some bit of atmosphere and interaction with the character. Okay, except for the one thing at the top of the level where Mila kind of showcases her hidden insecurities of something that happened to I think an orphanage that she worked at years ago, like before becoming a psychonaut, and it kind of haunts her. I mean, but other than that, we don't really get anything out of this. It's a multicolored eyesore that makes people rage quit. Okay, one more of that joke. Next up, from one irritating level to another, this level is kind of like Atlantis from Kingdom Hearts 2, where as we progress, we are kicked out of the world because we need something new. And for those of you who probably know what I'm talking about the brain tumbler experiment from number 1. This level is... I mean, it's not as terrible as Mila's dance party, but it still has its issues. The level aspect is pretty good. It's a dark, creepy forest where Raz follows a bunny to the main focus. I don't really understand it that much either. Sasha uses Raz because he shows great promise in wanting to be a psychonaut and trying to help what's been going on. Using the brain tumbler experiment, we go through this dark forest where there's a lot of meat references. And for people who paid attention to a previous level, you can kind of connect the dots. I mean, I kind of did. Okay, to be fair, I watched the game before I played it. It's still just seeing how the clues could kind of be pieced together. But overall, the brain tumbler experiment is kind of annoying. For example, we get this shadowy monster right near the beginning of we start, but we don't know how to use Psyblast, or combat, so Sasha pulls us out. Oh, yes, Agent Sasha 9 is a dude, just so those of you who aren't confused. So Sasha takes us into his mind, and then we gotta learn. And then another halfway part where we reach the giant thorny tower. This highly implies of Thorny Towers, the insane asylum that's right next to the summer camp. Seriously, is this place in Gotham City? Who in their right mind puts a psych ward asylum near a summer camp? Oh, right. seriously, summer camps and psychopaths don't really do well. So after we're brought out again, we have to do Mila's level, which again is a pain in the ass to do, and then we go back to Sasha to progress later through the game. Through the brain tumbler experiment. The level is fine. It's kind of that mutated, kind of muddy colored forest with all these creepy plants, a giant thorny tower where a big reveal happens. And the brain tank boss and the blueprint tank boss isn't that bad. It's actually pretty fun, and I just wish there were more bosses in this game like this. However, after discovering the big secret, which I will reveal later, yeah, we are pulled out again. So the problem I have with this level is that we're pulled out of it twice. I mean, there's no reason for it. There is literally no reason for us to be pulled out so many times. Before we go into the brain tumbler, Sasha asks us if we've been taught any combat maneuvers or any levitation abilities. So he would tell us before we go in here, I better teach you the basics. And now that I've taught you the basics, go to Mila to get the advanced setting. Seriously, the whole being pulled out numerous times because we would have to go to each section of the game in order to progress. It would just have eliminated the need to backtrack and us being pulled out of the level twice. I mean, it's nowhere as near as being pulled out the numerous times Atlantica did, but each his own. At number 17 of the list, we are the first, well, not the first, but our first level in the Psychonauts 2 on the list, and this one's kind of a mixed, I got mixed reviews on this level. I like the theme they went for, but it just didn't have the kind of atmosphere that the majority of the other levels do, and that would be Cassie's Collection. In the mind of Cassiopeia, one of the original Psychonauts. Seriously, this game this whole series goes as we're going in the minds of actual Psychonauts agents, nutcases, and then previous Psychonaut people. Well, at least they keep the theme consistent. Cassie's Collection is based around a theme that isn't really talked about a lot in a lot of games or series, and that is archetypes, where nobody is basically one different person, and this level definitely showcases it. Cassie's mind is basically at war with itself, kind of. The librarian character is a paper cutout of herself that says that we need to find the other archetypes because they got bad ideas. Basically, the others have different personalities, and the librarian's trying to clean house and take full control of the mind. We got the teacher, where she feels. We got 3 different archetypes to find. One is literally in the start of the game, which is the teacher, which kind of represents Cassie's obligation of being the teacher of the Psychonauts, given her vast experience. The other is her arrogant writer character, which she became when she wrote her novel Mindswarm, and the counterfeiter, which kind of showcases her rebellious ways when she was a kid in order to survive. Anyway, the level of the game of this, well, not of the game, the level of this mind is, it's better than the previous 2, but not by much. It has this giant ass library feel, which I do like. And it also helps that the other characters within the book, within the level, are kind of like paper cutouts as characters from different novels, which I get because it's a library, but at the same time, they just wiggle and move in order to indicate they're talking. And some of them don't really give much in terms of the interaction of the world. Like, not a lot of them really help, except for the snake, which is voiced by Steve Bloom. Also, Steve Bloom voices another favorite type of character in this series, but I'll get to that when I get to it. So yeah, the library sections aren't that great. They're basically platforming, using all the abilities that we got in order to progress through the library. Also, there's a top layer on the chandelier where all the previous Psychonauts are, indicating how Cassie feels about each of them. Which, it took me a while to find, which it's a great Easter egg. And then the second area where we have an entire fish market town made of books, paper, pencils, all that good stuff. And it looks like an actual Oriental harbor town, which I wish the rest of the level was like this. I just wish after we found the teacher and then we had to find the counterfeiter and the writer, I just wish that we could have gone into another section with the writer. Maybe some smaller aspect of it where we had to, maybe a book representation of the Mother Lobe, which is the hub world of the game. I don't know, like, have that be where Cassie kind of feels at home as a writer with her other Psychonauts. I mean, it would have added another depth other than just the library aspect. Hi. And afterwards, this is where we get the I can't believe I'm doing this, but basically the Doodle Bob version of Raz that isn't, homicidal. I think. Which is actually a pretty good ability. It distracts opponents and gets into puzzle areas. And then basically afterwards, the librarian traps us and turns into the Dibrarian. I'm starting to see a Monsters University reference here, and I don't know if I'm happy about it. Overall, the theme of the level is pretty good. Everyone isn't just that one personality of us. We all have different multiple personalities. Let me rephrase that. We all have different attributes about us that kind of collide with each other. For example, I was a quiet nerd in high school. I'm outgoing nowadays, and as a kid, I was really hyper and unable to control myself at the time. But overall, all those things built me into the person I am. Just like how all four of Cassie's personalities build her up into the one person. And if one tries to take over, then it kind of goes off balance. I like the level. It's not my favorite from the second game, and it's definitely not my favorite overall. But it pretty much goes uphill from here. Except, yes. Okay, yes, you can stop with the music now. Okay, yes, I get it. The Meat Circus is number 4 on this list. Well, not number 4, but 4th from the bottom. I get what people say. I agree. The level is... It is one of the worst final levels in all of gaming. I'm not going to lie. The pacing of the Meat Circus is very... For a form, really quick, and kind of felt like it was over before it started. After a boss fight, we accidentally get our brain gone, and then we meld our brain with Oleander's. Yeah, big shock. The guy who spouts off about war is the villain. Yeah. So basically, their two minds kind of merge together. And we get to meet little Oleander. Okay, then. And apparently, he was a nice kid who loved to play with his bunnies in a secret hill. But his father, who is a butcher, which is where all the meat in his basic braining level come in. And all the meat in the brain tumbler experiment of whose mind is basically involved with this whole thing. So Raz's memories of the circus with his family and meat merge to create the meat circus. And I don't mind that kind of twisted merger of two different things that look like they shouldn't go and trying to make into an absolute great world, but it's short. You got the small section, you got the big top where we have to save little Oli and his bunny by getting him to the rabbit while avoiding these monstrous rabbit-looking creatures, which makes the ones from this anime look cuddly and soft. I'm actually getting a lot of good jokes this video. I'm really surprised. And then we get the Tunnel of Love section, which is just a grind rail. Yeah, grind rail, dodge some enemies, and then we get to the final aspect where we're taking on the Butcher, Oleander's father. Yeah, it's over before it begins. And then we have to do a platforming section as we take on the embodiment of Raz's father, who later, in fact, joins in this level for a bit. And then after taking out both fathers, they mill together to form one giant super monster dad. Normally, you know what? I got no jokes for this. This is literally one of the worst final bosses ever. Add Dad Monster to worst final boss list. We'll be arriving in Wait. Oh, wrong list. Aha. Will be coming out December 2024. Okay, don't be a snark asshole. Anyway, the Meat Circus, again, final level-wise, it's not great. And I get why Defoffleizer, every chance that he gets, he bags on it. So much so it became a running gag in his videos, which I get. It's a short final level. The final boss isn't that great, and the platforming is terrible. It is god-awful. It's a pain in the ass because you don't really understand what you're supposed to do, which sucks. So again, as far as final bosses go, it's awful. As far as final levels go, it's awful. Why is it a little bit higher? Well, I think the problem with him when he did it is that he originally played it on either the PlayStation or the PlayStation 2 when it came out. I played the revamped version on PS4, so my experience with it wasn't as laggy and chalky. And yeah, Psychonauts 1 did not have the best control. So, Meat Circus, you're definitely a cut above, but you're still just regular meatloaf. No, not that meatloaf. And from the final level to a first level, we've got Lobato's Labyrinth from number 2. I like this level. The fact that it was a good fake out for us. That this was HQ and it was really just a ploy to get Lobato to give us the person who hired him to take the mind of Truman Zanato, the head of the Psychonauts. Yeah, there's a lot of backstory you need to get into, but I'm not going into it. And once he realizes he's been had, the entire office level kind of combines Lobato's dentistry stuff with gross teeth platforms, giant mobster teeth, and basically the entire level just turning into this maddening orthodontist's nightmare, or some of them a dream come true. And I do like how at the end of how this level, it's a tutorial level for the new aspects of the Psychonauts game, but at the same time, I really, really enjoyed it. It was my first number 2 was my first Psychonauts game, so yeah, it was a great start for me understanding the whole gameplay mechanic. Plus, I did like how they did a replica of the Thorny Towers thing that was in the Brain Tumbler experiment, hinting that while Lobato was there, he was asked by someone to do his other scheme. Turns out Oleander wasn't the only nutcase who employed this mad scientist. Also, what's with the shower cap? Seriously. Although at the end of the level, we don't get any information. We just know that he was shown something very, very fierce. Also, I do kind of like, as we reach the end of the level, there's the scene where Raz jumps over water and the water hand that he's afraid of. I do like how they implemented that to showcase, yeah, the curse is still around. So yeah, Lobato's Labyrinth. Really interesting. Really good first level. Well, what's next? Well, you know what? I used a defossilizer video clip for one part of the video, so he pretty much summed it up.
You to come find her and acts as if it'll be a fair fight, but then rigs all the rules against you. So this entire level revolves around rigging casino games in your favor. That concept's unique enough to be a level from Psychonauts.
Hollis's Hot Streak. Technically, our full first level for number 2. And yeah, like I said, I'm putting both parts of the level on here. So Hollis's Mind, where she teaches us mental connections, which is a great traversal and puzzle-solving aspect of the new gameplay. Also having her mind be the hospital where she used to work at. And then after some slight manipulation on Raz's part, seriously, kid, it's your first day. You were already pranked being nude, technically, by your classmates, and now you mess with your professor's head. Yeah, that's par for the course for a new cadet. Anyway, after a little mental connection, after we go back into Hollis's mind, it turns out, yeah, that her entire hospital aesthetic has turned into a giant casino. Which is great. It's really good. And before we can get into the High Roller Lounge, which I love that it's represented by a dice, and that we need 3 gold coins in order to enter. Seriously, why is it in video games 3 is the magic number for tasks? I'm just pointing it out. So, just saying. And I do love that at the dice, the different areas of the game do correlate to different gambling and different hospital aesthetics, which from the sample cup head people to the pill head people to the syringe head, I think. Anyway, the basis of this whole level is to cheat. Which is to cheat at the 3 games by using our Psychonaut abilities. So yeah, basically like Persona 5's casino level, we are literally cheating in order to progress through this person's mind, which I do love. From doing the race, which is an EKG reader where we have to be the heart, and it's freaking great. From doing pachinko size of the human anatomy to roulette wheel winning a child. Yeah, and if you thought this game was for kids, it's for preteens, I guess, because some of the subject material is way off course for kids. Camera died, had to plug it in. Where was I? Oh, right, Hollis's Hot Streak. So yeah, cheating in this level really kind of makes it, because Raz is the one who messed up this mine in the first place. So he's doing any means necessary to fix the mine. And then we get the first boss of the game, the Lady Luctopus, which is an okay first boss. I think I mentioned it in my first bosses list. But at the same time, it gives us kind of a good grasp of what we can expect in the game. And it absolutely is a great first level. It's still at the bottom half of the list. Because as great as it is, a lot of other levels really hit home for me. But I did like at the ending of the level, Hollis realizes that her mind's been messed and that Raz is responsible. And Raz is sorry that he messed with her mind and that he thought he was doing it for a little bit better, but he was doing it for himself. And Hollis does scold him for it, but she doesn't forgive him for what he did, but she just kind of tells him that when she was young, she made a mistake that she couldn't fix on her own. And that's why she's dedicated to the Psychonauts, wanting to do better to make up for the mistake that she did. And once again, even though he messed up, his mess up isn't exactly forgiven right off the bat. Throughout the game, he is definitely improving on how he could fix what he did. Another fun fact is that if you notice, throughout the first game, Raz just throws the mind door on someone and he enters their mind. After Hollis, throughout number 2, he always asks the person, is it okay if I enter your mind? Which I like that. It's a little bit different. It's a little nudge. Also, the whole thing with his our grind rail on the actual Lady Electabuzz isn't in the mind, but it's still an added bonus for the level. From a couple levels that were maddening, and I gave crap for the Meat Circus for being super short, this level is just as short with not that much to do in it, but it encapsulates a lot within the second game. So throughout the majority of the game, until we get to the last half, we find out that the giant threat that we're dealing with, what was it again? Maligula. Thank you. I would have gotten there. It was on the back of my mind. Maligula, the Deluge of Grulovia, the resurrecting villain of this game, is none other than Raz's Nona, or great grandma, technically her great aunt, Lucretia, who felt, okay, you know what, that's for another level. So basically, her mind was wiped in order to make her forget about her days as Maligula, and instead to be joining with the Aquatos as a family. So the level starts off with Raz in a flea circus that depicts the family. And when I say a flea circus, I literally mean a flea circus. It's basically a bunch of fleas with masks of all the Aquatos there, while Lucretia's watching from the stands. Except for Raz. Oh wait, he splatters his own flea. So Raz has to do the circus stuff throughout the first half of the level. A fun little added detail here. This is technically the second last level of the game, and they put the Meat Circus music in here because it is a circus. Still not the worst circus levels in video game. That honor belongs to the one that's in SpongeBob SquarePants Revenge of the Flying Dutchman for PlayStation. Oh god, if they remake that, the nightmares. Oh boy. But after we do the final trick, we are landing in this giant quilt-like world where everything is made of yarn, quilt, and all that stuff. And as we dive into level 4, didn't put this here. Yeah, he put the flea circus as a representation of Lucretia's memories of her family not being her own, more like it was Ford trying to make it that way. But the yarn world is absolutely fantastic. The bright colors, the soft, fluffy exterior. It's a beautiful quilt world, and I do love it. And as we continue down the path, which literally down memory lane, because the entirety of the level is a pathway that leads us to the big reveals on everything. Like Lucretia's memories with her nephew. Yes, with her nephew and her grand nieces and nephews, which I really, really do like. It shows that even though it's the memories of with the Aquatos weren't her real memories, she really built a life being with them, and it's really well done. Also, I love that it's revealed that that she is the one who gave Raz the brochure to Whispering Rock's Psychic Summer Camp in the first game, which is revealed via the vaults within Raz's part of the mind of the meat circus, which is really which I like how they tied it all full circle. That she's the reason Raz decided to actually become a Psychonaut for real, which I do love. It ties everything together, and it wasn't a tie-in that I needed, but it just works. It's not something that was thrown in immediately just for the sake of covering all bases. And then we get to the deeper part of the level where it's all a bunch of baggage with a giant lock of Lucretia's locket. What can I say? This level is short, it's quick, but at the same time, it gives us so much depth to the character of Lucretia. And I know a lot of people would put it like near the bottom of the list, but I really enjoyed it. The aesthetic of the symbolism of the flea circus, the quilt memory lane being her fake memory, and the memory she chose to create herself, which tie in greatly to her deep, dark memories that have been locked away. Which, again, fantastic. Next up, are you someone who loves board games and video games? Well, Waterloo World is definitely for you. This level is one of the first nope, it's the second. When we get to the Thorny Towers Asylum, and after we go through one of the wackiest levels ever created, I'll get to that one later. We are greeted by three people in the asylum: Edgar, Gloria, and the owner of this segment's mind, Fred Bonaparte, who was an orderly of Thorny Towers, who, after losing his game Waterloo World to an inmate who is now technically the boss now, he kind of has a crisis that he lost, where the spirit of his ancestor, literally Napoleon Bonaparte, is fighting him. Basically, this is obviously a split personality thing where Bonaparte calls Fred a coward for giving up after losing one game. So during the level, they're playing the same exact game, and I do like the overall aesthetic of the game. It has that board game feel throughout the world. You feel the size and depth of the game as you go further into the game, exploring it at different depths. I like how all the water panels and all the panels itself has a hexagonal look like it would in an actual board game like this. Also, one little fun fact, the entire game is in this giant room where Fred and Napoleon are playing, and if you go to a certain window of the game board, you can see them playing the game. I found it by accident, but that is literally, you know what? It is literally one of my funniest little Easter egg gags in this game, and it's really enjoyable. What else do I have to say about this game? All right, basically throughout the game, we have to literally get our soldier into Bonaparte's castle in order to win the game. But Fred is basically defeated, and I do like how we're, throughout this half of the game, we're helping people deal with their psychological issues. Here, it's split personality disorder. But here's the weird thing. Unlike the other levels, Napoleon doesn't want to hurt Fred. He just wants him to get his confidence back. And it showcases in this game. As we enter the game world, Napoleon instead of being a jerk of a villain of the level by making us learn the rules as we go, he basically explains how the rules work, basically. So, I mean, he's a good sport. He wants Fred to win, but he doesn't want to give it to him easily. So throughout the game, we have to do certain things by helping getting the farmers to work for us, getting the mercenaries to fight for us. And then as we're starting to win, Napoleon raises the drawbridge to the castle and cheats by putting something in the gear so we can't unlock it until Raz goes smaller and loosens it. Now, I do like this part because, yeah, not everyone's going to play fair. And this was also a test for Fred to see if he would give up the minute someone didn't play fair. But no, Fred tells us to charge on, and he beats Napoleon, and he happily vanishes. And I do like that about this level. It's a battle within oneself for self-confidence, but it's more like a parent giving tough love when necessary, but at the same time not going so overboard that we get scared by defeat. And that's what I love about the symbolic relationship between Bonaparte and his aunt and Fred. Fred doesn't want to lose, but Napoleon doesn't want him to quit the minute things get tough. And that's a great thing about this level. The aesthetic, the overall synopsis of split personality, and the fun little things in this level make it super fun. If you're a board game fan, then you're going to love this level.